Welcome back, everybody, to Fortnite News, where we talk about things in the Fortnite scene. I know I'm 2 days late on this, okay? I don't follow all the things so closely. I did see this yesterday, but I didn't want to cover it until today because it's a huge topic out there, besides the fact that Tfue is apparently quitting competitive Fortnite altogether, which compared to many other pro players out there or streamers and content creators, they are kind of leaning towards quitting. But Tfue here in this clip, if you guys have somehow not seen it, actually confirms he will be fully quitting competitive Fortnite.
You're gonna quit Fortnite after the World Cup? Competitive yet? This is my last competitive shit. Is the World Cup? I'm not gonna qualify anyway, so it's like I shouldn't even be playing this shit, honestly. But I don't care. I don't need the money anyway. I'm just playing it for fun. I could definitely fucking do well in it, but I'd rather stream and do bad than not stream, you know?
And why I really wanted to stress he could be fully quitting competitive Fortnite is because based off so many titles out there are a few there's several good clickbait channels in the Fortnite scene right now, but a ton currently are saying that all these Fortnite pros are quitting when they really aren't. Tfue is the first, especially of his tier, of an actual pro player. Let's get the fact right, guys. A pro player and a pro player like Tfue are two very separate categories, because in the Fortnite scene especially, people like to label pro players as just about anyone who creates content in the Fortnite scene, and that's certainly not true. And if we're being honest, people like, you know, Myth, people like Daquan, people like Ninja are really borderline competitive players. Yes, they competed in the past and they might compete in a few events in the future, but when it comes down to a truly competitive and pro player, there are hundreds and hundreds of players on a more pro level than those three guys, and many more who have been mentioned in titles for quitting Fortnite. Now, I'm not trying to diss those guys either, because if they do quit Fortnite altogether in terms of streaming and content, that's a huge hit. But in my mind, those are streamers, those are content creators, and when it comes to the pro scene, there are many people who are better than them and could bring eyes as well to the scene, and I don't think they would deny that there are many pro players better than those guys. And it kind of just bothers me when we see a bunch of titles that say so-and-so pros are quitting Fortnite, when really the only top tier pro I've seen that's actually said fully outright said they're going to quit so far has been Tfue. So now that's out of the way, I want to address the main issue, my main worries of the future of competitive Fortnite. You guys can of course leave your comments down below, and I think it comes down to a few simple things. It's not going to be the issue of these pro players quitting. Honestly, I don't believe a lot of content creators or streamers will quit altogether Fortnite. We're not going to see Ninja step back. We're not going to see Myth or Daquan step back. I think the main issue we have seen so far is the absolute incredible flood of money and funding to the game so far. When you have a single $60 million event and $100 million given out in the last year, or 2018 to 2019, that's where we're going to see the issues slowly come in. You heard it from himself for the third time. Tfue said he has enough money, and a lot of pro players are going to get to that point, and I'm worried about, especially with your first world event bringing in $60 million of prize pools, where do you go from there? Where do you go from there as a pro player to be persuaded if you're a Tfue, or if you're a Cloak, if you're a top pro like Bizzle so far, the entire Ghost clan, the entire FaZe clan, the Liquid Boys, so on and so forth. If you are making so much money from content creation, streaming, YouTube, so on and so forth, and of course World Cup is going to tempt you, what after World Cup though will continue to tempt you is where I have my main issue, because we have never before seen an esport actually take off at a stage 1 level with their first world event to have this much money. Where do you go from here? Where do you climb? You look at Dota 2, the internationals, they started around that high mark, right? They were known for their high prize pools each and every year for their international. Now several years later, they're finally reaching the point of $20+ million where they're, you know, having actually a tough time crowdfunding that amount. They've actually extended the amount of time it's taking to actually crowdfund the amount of prize pool, because they know for a fact that once that prize pool stops going up and up and up, people are going to think the game is dying, and they started way below the $60 million mark. So that's my number one point in terms of where I'm worried at. If you have a year 1 World Cup event bring in $60 million in prize pool, how can you continue to go up and up and up? And when it comes down to other events as well, what makes a pro player who wants to attend a $60 million event also want to attend a, let's say, a $1 million, a 500K event? It's just not going to be the same. And then there's a second point, I think a very good point as well, made a lot by, well, a lot of pros out there. That's the competitive meta, and of course the way Epic does run their competitive game altogether. We've talked about this many times on this channel, many times across several videos as well. The fact that they've come up with so many things at so many different times, and especially at times that seem pretty bad for competitive competitive players. You know, Myth talked about this. He just became so stressed out with having to deal with the meta changes. We saw boom boxes, we saw the sword, we saw planes, we saw now the current meta with ballers, which are mechanically broken, and we've seen many others. That's a very short list of things that have been released within days or at least the same week of big events out there, and it makes you really question for the future of pro players, what content creator, what solid streamer who makes enough money either on YouTube, either on Twitch, whatever their platform is, what makes them want to compete competitively if they're going to practice for so amount of time and take away from their stream or take away from their content creation to actually develop, you know, their training for whatever event they're going to be training for. What makes them want to do that when you're going to change the meta or change a huge mechanic of the game just days before the event? So I think it's really going to come down to if a pro player or if a streamer, a content creator can now afford to stay away from competitive Fortnite, they're simply going to do so. Yes, we're going to have our competitors out there. I think a guy like Nick Merckx is a prime example of a competitor. A guy like Bizzle, a lot of the Ghost guys up there as well. They are such solid foundational players, and maybe other players as well who are not fully developed as content creators are always going to compete. They'll always be at the top as well. But when it comes to people like Daquan, people like Myth and Tfue as well, who can afford to step away, here's where we're going to run into very many issues out there as well. And that's where I'm worried about the future of competitive Fortnite. But where I'm not worried is this. I don't want the overall message of the video for me to be, oh, competitive Fortnite has no future whatsoever. That's just simply not true. So many titles out there, so many videos want to say it is true, but viewership is probably going to go down a little bit, you know, give or take a little bit as well. But there will never be a shortage of pro players who at least want to compete in competitive Fortnite. You know, for every one pro player out there who quits, I'm sure 3 to 4 rising players will take their place. And we have seen so many countless 14 to 18-year-old rising pro players out there. I couldn't even make a list long enough to count all of those guys in. And you see it currently now in the World Cup qualifiers. There are thousands and thousands of potential players out there who will fill those holes, and hopefully along with those holes competitively also fill those holes content wise as well, and simply replace the pros who had quit to go back to content creation. I am not worried about the competitive future of Fortnite as of right now. There are a few worries out there which I've told you guys about, but overall I think it will stay intact for quite some time. The biggest turning point will be post New York City, post these World Cup finals, when the money is no longer there for a set amount of time. Where will the future go is where we will see hopefully some players step back up. We're definitely going to see some players quit competitively full time, maybe like a Tfue as well, if he fully confirms that to be true. But overall, am I worried? A slight bit. Do I think competitive Fortnite is dead in the water? There is no way in my mind. So yes, pro players will quit. Pro players will quit. Plenty of players will, but other people will take their place. The only real question need to be answered for the future is prize money, and of course the way Epic runs things. Things need to be changed, and then there's a whole nother video topic out there of course how this game actually treats competitive players compared to casual players, right? I have never seen a game with such a huge divide between those two categories, because you have casual players who want one thing and you have competitive players who want an entirely different thing, and it makes me really stressed out thinking about that, because attuning to both those crowds has proven nearly impossible. What do you guys think about the future of Fortnite, at least competitively, and what do you guys think about Tfue apparently resigning for competitive Fortnite altogether? As always, my name is Jake. I hope you guys all enjoy, and until next time, take care.